Thank you so much for inviting me, Puppet, for this talk. It's really a privilege. And before I start, to let you know, all right, who are we? I'm Joseph, and with me is Nicholas. If you want to find me out, in the LinkedIn. You can actually type in my name as well as my poly. We are a government institute education, higher learning education sector. So if you have anything else that you want to contact me with, feel free to hook me up in LinkedIn. All right. Okay, before I start, just a bit more introduction to lighten up the conversation. I do really benefit a lot from all the panel speakers. Well, we really have good speakers that I think there are some things that you have shared. We do identify when we go through the automation journey about the complexity and the pains. We may later talk a bit more. And just a heads up, Nicholas will go through some of the live demo that we have done in-house, and we just extract a few of them to share with you what we have done so far. On the lighter side, maybe just to jazz up the conversation. I think it's a bit boring if I'm just talking on my own. So just let you know about a certain interest that I have with my family. I have children, and I also have a close group of friends. And every year, we will have a yearly family travel to actually a school in Cambodia at the city Phnom Penh itself. What we do is actually we bring our children along. So you can see a picture on the left. These are all the families, and then we wear the dress, to the same color shirt, to actually and share some teaching methods to children, how to teach them English, play games, and even talk to the teachers. So these are some things that we do, and as well as to feed the poor, because that's where the school is situated, near the slum. So as an educator, I thought it is a good experience that we bring our children along to learn how to love the poor and the needy. That's one of the things that we do as a family. So that's on the lighter side of sharing about myself. Next I have is Nicholas. You have seen him on the camera as well. Now he's a techie in our, he's my techie colleague. You can ask me all those technical questions later on. He's the one also involved in the automation as well. And that's how we got thus far. Now, let me bring back some background on the partnership we have with Puppet. We have installed the Puppet Enterprise in our mini data centers that handle all our lab resources. What do we have in the lab resources? We have multiple VMs, we have physical servers that actually support the academic lesson delivery for our full-time students, as well as our part-time students who study in the night. All right, those who attend our courses at the night. And for us, we have a very clear mission to how to partner with Puppet. In actual fact, when Puppet came and set up a headquarter or office in Singapore, we took the opportunity, managed to talk to Puppet to look into the DevOps space. Singapore is slightly a bit, I think, quite a few years behind a lot of the mature IT industry economy. And we're trying our best to level up a lot of training for beginners and intermediate skills so that the employees who are trained, they are able to contribute back to the company. So especially in the COVID situation now, all the IT companies are seeing that the DevOps is actually a way to go for them. And at the same time, government has been very aggressive. Our Singapore government is aggressive in promoting reskilling as well as upskilling even the full-time graduates as well as those adult learner out there who is interested to reskill into the space of DevOps with the tools and the knowledge as well as the mindset. I do agree with Nacho that to hire a DevOps engineer, you really need to have a total mindset change and culture change and your frame set of how you used to do things as a sys administrator or a network engineer as well as a developer. So that's one of the things that we target on. We shall show you some of the interesting clips that we have when we launch the courses. Now, how do we get started? It began in 2018 where we signed the Memorandum of Understanding, and then we get into the skills upgrade because we also need to technically train ourselves, and there was a duration, and we use some of case study to do a live implementation. Well, when you want to do something, you have to eat your own dog food, right, before we can teach others. So what we do is that we get ourselves hands dirty, and so that actually in the end, when we are able to deliver a feasible solution, we are able to come out real application cases, hands-on practical examples to deliver in our lessons. And thereafter, once we are confident, we actually launch the DevOps courses from 2019 until now. And even as there are two courses that we are actually running. One is called Intro to DevOps. This is where we target a mindset change culture and show them what do you mean by a CI/CD pipeline. So there's a run-through session which we engage Microsoft, one of the Microsoft employee. He's one of my close students that I've taught before. He's willing to come and teach. Therefore, he shared his experience of how does DevOps start in Microsoft and all those experience that he has. And the second one, we actually go a bit deeper. We introduce infra as code. The tool that we use now, we use Puppet since we are trained, and it's a very good tool for us because we have experienced it on our own. We are able to deliver real life practical examples for them to test out during this training. And then from there, we branch out further. In 2021, we are looking at a partnership with other polys to launch a specialist diploma. And all these are under government funding. If you're Singaporeans or you're PRs, you're heavily funded by the government to reskill and to upskill yourself. And I do see some questions asking about that. Where to start? The best thing is get some hands-on practical courses. If you find that doing on your own is a challenge, by doing it together with the trainer guided, I think is a much better options, which we have done with Puppet. We actually engage Puppet trainer to train us and walk through our live implementation. All right. So what are collaboration space? If you are individuals or companies who are looking how RP or Republic Poly can partner with you, in actual fact, we are looking at a consultancy kind that we can infuse some training or DevOps principle training into our curriculum for companies who are interested to kickstart, or even customize training for employers who wants to have their employee hired and they don't have the time to really get them into onboarding of their DevOps CI/CD pipeline training. So this is where we offer our work study program for fresh graduates. We can train them up as you hire them to work in your environment. The third one is our staff actually can be placed as a attachment to your company to assist you, or as well as to if you need to have some new technology that you want to explore, they can be there to be a test bed for you. So these are consultancy service we can do as a lecturer or staff in RP. And if you need interns with IT skills for a company, we also provide that as well. And we find that partnering with Puppet is really a very key strategy that we have because of as Deepa has mentioned, you're the founder of DevOps practices. And we find that with that, we have a stable platform to work on and to be able to continue in this area. Now, these are the courses that we have. If you're keen, all right, do check it out. It's called Intro to DevOps, and we are using Microsoft Azure platform to illustrate how the DevOps works. And as well as we have some hands-on on Git and Docker to get you started and familiarize what is Git and what is Docker. And we will use a simple deploy application to deploy using the resource manager in Azure. The upcoming runs in 2021, we have ended our runs in 2020. The other one is more for intermediate who wish to really go a bit more on infra automation, how to write infra as code using Puppet. We have our in-house build lab environment with Puppet pre-designed for this lesson, so that you don't have to struggle a lot when picking up the terms, the knowledge, the deliveries. How do you actually code it? So all this will be guided together with us. All right. So these are some of the courses that we have, and these are the participants that what we have captured. They do enjoy the training. Just let you all have a look at one of them is Microsoft. He came in and give training on the classes and how to really work on Azure simple application deployment using the resource manager. Okay, back to our journey. This is something that really strike our heart, because before we automate, I really look into our lab support, how to deliver all those software for our lessons to continue every day. In RPE, we are quite unique because we uses lab VMs as well as physical machines or even devices for lessons. And before automation, we will actually manually configuring the OS with some cloning going on, and even firewall configurations were manual. So we have classes that runs almost every day, and the next day we have to prepare for the lessons. So the technical engineers have to really work through the night to get the next day lessons up. So that was really something that, the white paper that you see the case study below, we couldn't put in all those pain points, but I will share it here. All right, the manual work that is involved is really huge. And after the automation, we're using Puppet bots and some of the Puppet agents that we install to monitor some key services. We save a lot of manpower. And now the technical executive who support our lab, they don't have to stay back so late. All the preparations are actually one-step reconfiguration, just execute and go, and the next day lesson will be ready. And at the same time, because it is automated, we reduce the human errors of the configuration, and there's less troubleshooting for lessons to deliver. So that really saved us a lot of heartaches and pains and panic, especially when we are lecturing in class. The lab is not ready for the lesson to start. We will have to hold the student back a while before we can get it up. So these are the issues we face when we want to deliver proper lessons to the students. So with the automation that is in place, we are able to do that. So now, without further ado, what I will do is I'll hand over to Nicholas. He will run through with you how do we actually manage to solve all these headaches that we have internally. Okay, back to you, Nicholas.
So Nicholas here. So I'll be continuing to just share with you what kind of use cases we have used Puppet in our environment. So basically, this diagram shows the two different use cases we actually use Puppet in our environment here. First case is where we use this Puppet bot, which is open source tools by Puppet. They can actually automate a lot of manual tasks. So because Palo Alto Firewall is used in one of our security module, where we teach students on how to configure firewall. Then one thing, because of this Palo Alto Firewall is doesn't allow the Puppet agent to be installed. Therefore, this Puppet bot allow agentless managing of this firewall. So in this case, we're actually using this Puppet bot to actually automate the task where we upload the config every day after the lesson to prepare for the next lesson. So we actually do a lot of restore config, update config using these Puppet bot tools. Later, I'll be doing a short demo on some of the things actually we perform on this particular use case here. Okay, the second use case is actually quite a classical use case that probably used in a lot of different companies as well. We're actually using Puppet master and agent to actually do the deployment of software with the necessary software packages that meet our lab environment. So we're actually using Puppet to push down new software. For example, we have a workstation, RSA software. Okay, so that's the thing we actually do on the second use case. Okay. So for Puppet bot, I'll be doing a short demo here. Okay, so just I'll just bring you through the, before I do the actual demo, I'll actually bring you through, give you an overview of what kind of so-called the big picture of what kind of how to actually make use of this Puppet bot to actually do this restore config on a daily basis. So firstly, we're actually using this particular module by Puppet under this Puppet Forge, where you can just simply install into your proxy agent, for example, a laptop machine. So in this case, on the laptop machine that you install with Puppet bot, you download and install this module called panels from this Puppet Forge. After that, the next steps is step 2. You're supposed to actually add in this particular to encode this module inside of this public file so they can be used. Then for third step, you're supposed to do some configuration. So to continue, next you need to actually do some configuration on the panel file, which is to do some config, for example, include the IP addresses or your firewall, etc. So to do that, you can actually edit this particular file called inventory.yaml file. So under this inventory.yaml file, you specify the IP addresses, IP address of your firewall, and specify the credential to actually log into your firewall. Because for this panels module, need to have the GUI access to this firewall. Then subsequently, we actually make use of this pop command to actually do a lot of tasks on this firewall. Before you can do this, you need to actually obtain the API keys for the firewall, which we actually using this bot task command with the API parameters. Then you can actually download copies of the configuration from the firewall, save to a local file using this store config, this option. Secondly, let's say you need to actually restore a specific configuration to a firewall, you can actually use this set config option. So this is actually the option that allows you to actually upload a new config or preset config to the firewall. So this will allow us to actually restore the initial config that we want the student to use on daily basis. Lastly, after we actually apply all the configuration, we need to actually commit this setting to the firewall so that you will take effect. So with this the basic 4 options that we actually use in this firewall. And now we'll do a quick demo on this. Okay. Before that, I'll show you. Okay, so this is actually the firewall that I'm using for this demo purpose. So you can see that currently this firewall doesn't have any firewall rules installed. So this is actually a initial configuration. Then now I'll be using this public port command to actually show you how to actually restore config to this firewall. Okay, so allow me to share the PowerShell command. Okay, so to do this, to do the task, first, as I mentioned, we need to get the API access from the firewall. So this is actually using this this particular option here, API keys. So what the important things here is to specify the loops, which is the IP addresses of the firewalls that you want to configure. So it takes a short while before you actually retrieve this key from the firewall. Okay, you can see the task is actually start on this particular firewall on this particular IP address, and you can see that now the key is actually successfully retrieved from the firewall for API access. Then the next thing we need to do is to actually you can actually download config from the firewall if you want. Let's say I want to download initial config from the firewall. I can download a copy and save it to local. I can run this command using this option store config. So important things on this particular command, again, same thing, you specify the IP address of the firewall, you specify the config file. This config file, this particular parameters will expect a string. So therefore, I'm using this single quote to actually specify the full path to this particular file that I want to save this file to. So this, after I run this, you'll save it to my local computer, which I can show you a sample, show you a config. How does it look like? Okay, so once you download once you have this save configs, this is actually how it actually look like in the config file format. Okay, so of course you can actually make changes to this file, but of course it will be more difficult to do. So in this case, it's recommended you to probably configure whatever you want on a sample set of firewall. Then later you just just save the config and then upload to the firewall where you want to restore the config. Okay, so to go back to the PowerShell command again, I already actually actually have a preset or configuration, which is called modified config file, which I'll now restore it to the firewall, just now that I showed you. Oh, sorry. Let me just restore. Okay, so it's actually using, supposed to use this set command. Okay, so the set commands is what I want. So using this set command options, again, same thing, you specify the IP address of firewall, specify the config file we want to do a restore. So the config file that actually adding the firewall rules is on this file called modified dash config. Apply through here is whether you want to save this or when to apply this setting to the firewall. So this aspect of Boolean value, for example, true or false. So you can see that with this command, I actually set this, upload this config that I pre-configured to the firewall. Then lastly, the next thing I need to do, the last thing is to actually do a commit to this, this configuration on the firewall. Okay. So again, it will take a short while to actually complete this process. Okay, while waiting, I can actually show you the previously I actually so-called set this upload the config. Where now if I actually go back to while waiting for this to commit, I can go back to the firewall. That will show you the settings already applied. Okay, so recall that earlier on I showed you this the firewall that doesn't come with any configuration, which only come with the default two rules. Now you can see that after I applied the pre-configuration, I have this new rule that's added into this firewall. Okay, so we can go back to this command prompt. You can see that the commit is already the commit action is already done on this firewall. Okay, so with this, this is actually how we actually make use of Puppet bot tasks to actually complete some of this action. So of course, all these Puppet tasks actually come with more than one sequence to complete. So of course, we actually combine with Puppet plan to actually run all these tasks together in one go. So this is not covered here, the demo due to the time constraint. So in future, what we actually planning to do is we actually consider to do an automation of network configuration on our Cisco networking devices within our environment. That's actually the next plan. How do we use Puppet in our environment? Okay, so with this, I'll pass on the time back to Joseph to wrap up this session.
Thank you, Nicholas. As I've shared earlier on, for those who are interested on DevOps, we are actually looking at whether we can gather interest. There's this survey that we hope that you are able to help us to fill up to know your interest, especially companies who are looking for funding or even individuals who are looking for funding, how much funding government support for certain causes. Feel free to fill in this survey. What I'll do is that I will post it inside the chat. Oh, can I put it? Okay, I place a link in the chat. You can click or you can scan the QR code. That's for us to actually follow up with you for anything that, because of time constraint, we may not be able to discuss it in this platform. Usually after the Puppet sharing that we had in Singapore office, we have a chance to connect and talk. But due to this situation, we can't. So do let us have your info to let us follow up with you. And for the demo or anything else, if you have any question, I think we have 5 minutes. Zach, am I right?
Yep,
Before
that's correct.
End? Yep. So any questions for us that we can address it immediately? Otherwise, we will address it separately once Papa has collected their questions and we'll address to you.
perhaps not a question, but just a comment from me. It's really interesting to see you guys going through and using, obviously you got Puppet Enterprise running and doing sort of the traditional model-based stuff, but also using Bolt, which is open source, and particularly using it on network devices. I think that's really interesting to see, because I think networking has always been the final bastion of automation. Networking has traditionally never been easy to automate, and for whatever reason, the vendors have never made it easy, and they're obviously looking to do that now. But it's great to see someone using Bolt to go through and automate the network devices.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, because we both of us traditionally are from the sysadmin and network admin role, so our concern are more towards that area. So if you are an application developer, I think the angle will be different. But nevertheless, now I think there's a blurring of lines in the DevOps. So we also have to understand what the developers are doing, and therefore we can automate our part as well. Yeah, thanks for highlighting that, Zach.
There's one question in here. Should I be an expert in network and system infrastructure to implement Puppet infrastructure?
You will need to have some fundamental knowledge, especially on how the network is being connected. The rest are actually config based. So if you were to go through some of the training, we are actually quite structured in our training. It will be going through basics and then followed by advanced skill set. Therefore, if you're really keen, you don't have to be an expert. If you're an expert, then you just need to have some bridging course to turn it to learn how to write coding in the Puppet framework that's given, and then you can be able to deploy it out. So if you ask me, do you need to be an expert? No, for our training wise, I think we can start to reskill you if you are not very good in networking. You just know have some basic fundamentals. You can start on that.